Welcome. You have probably read, seen, and heard of the Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, the French, Germans, Romans, etc., and the Greeks. And we all know in our brain when we hear these terms and these names that these are Europeans who look like this. Is that right? Well, don't be too sure. Today we want to look at this topic, explosive proofs of races whose identity is being hidden or has been hidden. Now, our mission statement as Marifado Family Group is to help every melanin-dominant human experience effective cultural congruence by interacting with revered ancestors and divinities. Our mission is also tied to our vision, which is to restore Ubuntu Ma'ati heritage and Afro-Salvation mysteries. So issue of race is one of those very critical points because of our close proximity to Europe and the actual crossing. It was easy for Africans to enter into Europe via the Gibraltar. The Grimaldi skeletons of Monaco of an old woman and a child, 43,000 years BCE, as well as the modern San, a Bushman, as well as other San people of Southern Africa, proves that the Khoisan, who are the oldest race, one of the oldest races on earth, long time ago crossed over into Europe and probably are the only original European race, indigenous European race, and they were Africans or melanin dominant human beings. More images and pictures and the more accurate depiction of the people that were in Europe 45,000 years ago before the Ice Age and also Mesolithic periods, 20,000 to 8,000 years ago. And these are European hunter-gatherers. Straightforward, it's very, very clear that they were Bantus. According to other estimates, what is known then is that people moved out of Africa some 100,000 or so years ago into the area, Northeast Africa here, and into other parts of the world all over the earth. And 40,000 years ago, they moved into Europe. When they traveled from Africa into Europe, it is quite clear from evidence gathered in Spain, Luxembourg, and Hungary around 8,500 years ago that these people were of darker skin and they were not of any other skin. Then a mutation is reputed to have occurred and it is linked to a depigmentation gene isolated and now found and named SLC24A5, which is linked to the paleness of the skin for those who swept into Europe from Asia, the two groups now, as well as the Caucasus Mountain some 8,000 years ago. This is the explosive data, explosive information of those who changed and are changing the history and the facts on the ground to suit their claim of being the real inhabitants of Europe. So what happened to the indigenous people? That's what we want to look at. Another factor, according to biological science, modern humans moving into Europe about 45,000 years ago met or another species in Europe. The two groups clashed, and these were the Neanderthal and the modern humans shown here. And then the Neanderthals disappeared 25,000 years ago. So what race were these Neanderthals? Were they Gorutotos? Or they were Amazim? Did melanin dominant humans met with these Neanderthals in Europe? Is this one of the explosive proofs of races whose identity has been changed? You can go to this website and read more about this to understand this issue of possible location of admixture with Neanderthals here. Far, far, far in the east there. And also the admixture with the Denisovans and admixture with the Neanderthals, two places on earth. So let's think about this and concentrate a little bit on the diagram that we are showing here now. And it's very clear that the monogenetic explanation certifies that melanin-dominant humans are the people whose identity gave birth to the varied racial groups today found on this planet Earth. And this is the fact that has been falsified so many times and deliberately made unclear. The waters have been muddied deliberately. So two groups that migrated to Scandinavia here were genetically distinct. Remember the two places of admixing that occurred, right? Here in Northeast Africa as well as the far, far east. You can see that the people that moved from Africa here 19,000 years ago, so-called Western hunter-gatherers, had dark skin, blue eyes. The blue eye is also a melanin-dominant nature, and the dark hair. And also the other group here, Eastern hunter-gatherers, were also of light and intermediate skin and varied eye color, some with blonde hair. And the origins of blonde hair, straightforward, is given here 18,000 years ago. So, and the Yamnaya pastoralist here, who came from the Caucasus, hunter-gatherers 13,000 years ago, origin of blue eyes, light skin, and also the gene here, the two genes that are involved. So all this information was given by and taken from Matthias Jacobson of Uppsala University in the Scandinavian countries. So this is very clear. But the indigenous identity of Europeans has been deliberately falsified. And we want to show how it has been done in these days. It's quite clear, and anyone who has a keen sight of study and research will find that this is a diagram of so-called the Cheddar Man, provided by the independent digital news and media, popularized and given to the public by scientists previously, saying this person was of light skin, the Cheddar Man. And on the other hand, we are told that the Cheddar Man discovery, first modern Britain had dark skin, which is a reminder that we all came from Africa. That's what experts say. And then they went further to do a full genome test. The first ever full DNA analysis of Britain's oldest modern human specimen has provided unprecedented insight into the appearance of ancient Britons and a reminder that we all came somewhere from Africa. This is explosive. This is the explosive proof of those who changed other races' identity to suit their current claim of being the real inhabitants of various places and specifically of Europe. Let's continue. Now, we want to look at the issue of the indigenous Scandinavians, known as the Sami. These are the people that are indigenous. And this is now the modern European skin color, totally and completely different from the indigenous Sami. The indigenous Sami, the Sami population numbers somewhere in the region of 80,000 to 100,000 worldwide. In Norway, there are between 37,000 to 60,000 Sami people. In Sweden, between 14,600 to 36,000. In Finland, 9,000. In Russia, 1,000 or 2,000. In the United States, 945. In Ukraine, 136. In 1990, the Sami were formally recognized as indigenous people in the Scandinavian. We know it's true. It's a fact. You don't need to debate that. More proofs of the races whose identity has been concealed. This is the called Bijagmen, human mummy. The first known Scandinavian whose body was recovered from the Bo Korsberg, Denmark, just outside of Odense. And he doesn't look, his skull is dolicephaladic, so he's a Muntu. When you hear the word Viking, you will easily assume it's a European with beards and funny horns. You are wrong. That's not it. Because science itself says the Viking was a job description, not a matter of heredity. This is a massive ancient DNA study that has shown that. There it is. DNA from Viking burials around Europe like this. One of a woman in Varnhem, Sweden, review individuals' histories and identities, people that look like that. The word Viking actually means a pirate. Like all pirates, nobody cared where you came from. The general interest is in looting, stealing, fighting, bloody thirst, and destruction. This is it. So it's very, 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 very clear that we are playing with identities that have been squished around here. The monogenetic explanation certifies that melanin-dominant humans are the origins or the original identity that gave birth to other identities and varied identities, racial groups today. This is a fact that has been falsified, or this is a fact that they are silent about, that they don't teach and they deliberately make unclear. So this is the Nilotic Negro showing original types of big heads that have been found in Europe. Also, this is from Albert Churchward, 1912, the origin and evolution of primitive man. And also, this is what may be the head of a Roman Celtic god found in 2013 during an archaeological dig at the Binchester Roman fort built around 1800 in England's Durham. So it's very, very clear. More evidence. This is the Toland man found in a bog at Aarhus, Denmark, 400 to 300 BCE. It's a Muntu, is a melanin dominant human. And this is the true goal. A Roman coin struck in 48 BCE to commemorate the defeat of Vercingetorix, pictured here the last king of the Araveni. He was the last king of the unified Celts, who were melanin dominant, or Bantus, and the Gauls, who were also melanin dominant. He is melanin dominant, is very, very clear, of Normandy in France there. See the nose and see the Rastaman there. So European churches are some of the avenues or places where you can find blacks who have not been tampered with, who are still intact. They are shown here. There. These are Bantus. You can also go to this website, fantastic website, and read more about these and have more information. Melanin dominant humans were very, very important native citizens of the United Kingdom, Norway, Scandinavian countries, and as well as Europe and any part of the earth you can think of. But someone has worked very hard, and someone is busy today concealing and destroying this identity. This scenario of destruction and concealing of this identity will continue unless we successfully expose it to as many melanin dominant human beings as possible. The major culprit now coming up into history, who worked hard to destroy our identity, is this man, Thomas Cromwell, who destroyed all evidence in what was called the Cultural Reformation of Europe, 1500 to 1600. 100 years of destruction. Imagine 100 years of looking for anything that does not identify them and destroying it. So you can see that our ancestors fought hard to preserve a little bit of what can lead us to understand what they did in Europe and where they were. These explosive proofs of races, whose identity is hidden, must cause every melanin dominant human being to do two things. One, master true history and start to claim it, post it as much as you can, as wide as you can, with social media plethora and as many as platforms as we have today. If you are not posting anything once a day, what are you doing? You are destroying your own race. And the number two, to teach us, this is what it is teaching us, that it's so easy to lose our identity. Therefore, because of that, we must buy into the universal Ubuntu Ma'ati spirit and the unity and work together to preserve our identity and our history. You can do so by subscribing to our channel, Kamiti Iburu Ethics, or by sending us an email on join@marifado.com and help us to rebuild our greatness. This speech by LM Dumizu saying, Tatenda, Siabonga, Henkosi, Edupe, Salani Kahle. Asante sana.